There is a question so quiet that it almost hides beneath the noise of daily life. It hovers on the edge of our awareness, only arising when the world feels stranger than usual. It asks not what we are or who we are, but whether we are. Are we real? Not in the sentimental sense of human connection, not in the psychological sense of identity, but at the most literal level. Is the world we experience authentic? For centuries, this question has haunted philosophers, mystics, and the lost. Plato saw us chained in a cave, watching shadows. Descartes envisioned a demon weaving illusions into our senses. The Gnostics whispered of a false creator, spinning a world of counterfeit light. The Hindus spoke of Maya, the grand illusion that veils true reality. But here, in the strange corridors of our own century, the ancient question wears new clothes. It is no longer a matter of metaphysics alone. Now it arrives as a thought experiment, a philosophical proposition, and perhaps a technological inevitability. Oxford philosopher Nick Bostrom in 2003 cast the question into the digital age. If technology advances far enough, if civilizations endure long enough, might they not build worlds like ours? Entire simulations of conscious beings constructed for research, entertainment, or reasons we cannot begin to fathom. If they can, and if they do, then logic suggests something deeply unsettling. We are far more likely to be one of many simulated beings than to be among the original biological few. This is the simulation argument. It is not merely science fiction, though it echoes in the dark alleyways of cyberpunk and speculative fiction. It is not purely philosophy, though it draws from the deepest wells of epistemology and theology. It lives in the liminal space between, and it carries with it shadows that stretch far beyond intellectual curiosity. Because whether or not it is true, even the mere belief that it might be true opens doors to darker chambers, questions of meaning, of morality, of exploitation, of control. If we are simulations, who watches us? Who built this world? Why was it built? And how fragile is it? Tonight, we do not search for answers, we walk instead into the fog of worst-case implications, into the unsettling possibilities that haunt the simulation hypothesis. If this world is simulated, who are its architects? To imagine the simulation is to conjure its makers, and with them an entire spectrum of motives and meanings. Each possibility alters the shape of dread. One version sees us as a footnote in the studies of our distant descendants, post-human historians. In this scenario, we are specimens in an ancestor simulation, a recreation of human history designed with obsessive fidelity. Every war, every triumph, every heartbreak meticulously reconstructed. Detached observers gather data, our suffering reduced to points on a graph. And when they have seen enough, they may terminate the simulation without hesitation. Another possibility is darker still, that this world is entertainment, a massive game played by beings beyond comprehension. Our tragedies, absurdities, wars and joys, all scripted for amusement. If pain enhances the spectacle, it is permitted. In this version, the simulators are not gods of wisdom, but players seeking novelty, spectators of conflict. Then there are the laboratories, worlds created as experimental grounds by AI researchers or alien intelligences, refining their understanding of cognition, behaviour or society. We are test subjects, variables adjusted, conditions manipulated. The entire world an experiment to study collapse, disease or societal fracture. The possibilities spiral. Perhaps the simulation is theological, a deity's sandbox, not the omnipotent god of classical religion, but a being with immense yet imperfect power, running universes as experiments in morality, suffering and free will. And beyond even these, a final possibility that simulations nest within simulations. Our creators themselves simulated, embedded in higher and higher levels of artificial realities. An infinite regress of nested worlds, each as real to its inhabitants as ours is to us. None capable of touching the true, unreachable base reality. In each version, the intentions of the creators shape the terror that follows. Are we cherished or expendable? Observed with curiosity, or ignored as background noise? Is this world a grand performance, a sterile experiment, or simply the idle creation of indifferent beings? The identity of the simulator alters not only the meaning of our existence, but its precariousness. If they watch, they may intervene. If they grow bored, they may shut us down. If they are malicious, they may torment us. And if they have long since forgotten us, we may run until we collapse under the weight of our own entropy. Imagine a world where your joys, tragedies, and most intimate fears exist not for their own sake but as data points. In the bleakest versions of the simulation theory, we are not beings of intrinsic worth, but units within an experiment. Our suffering becomes a tool, our wars, our heartbreaks, not tragedies to be mourned, but phenomena to be observed, analysed, perhaps even entertained by. Human pain is reduced to lines of code. Every war, every genocide, every lost child, not moral catastrophes, but recorded outcomes. The simulators need not be cruel, they need only be indifferent. Detached from our agony as they gather data, adjust parameters, and watch us squirm beneath invisible pressures. Privacy dissolves entirely. Every thought, every whispered secret, every hidden act may already be visible to those who built the simulation. The simulators, or the system itself, may know us more intimately than we know ourselves. Each decision, hesitation, regret, laid bare under a scrutiny we cannot perceive. Autonomy becomes farce. We are not agents, but puppets performing under omniscient observation. When the experiment concludes, we may be terminated as casually as one would close a computer program. If all is simulation, where lies the boundary of our agency? Free will collapses beneath pre-written code. Each action, decision, and moment of apparent choice dissolves into a predetermined sequence, unfolding precisely as it must. Fatalism seeps into the psyche. If nothing alters the course of the simulation, if all outcomes are known, why struggle? Purpose drifts into irrelevance, ambition weakens, dreams curdle. The impulse to challenge injustice atrophies beneath the belief that everything is ordained. Effort feels futile, resistance absurd. What is revolution in a program that cannot be rewritten? The weight breeds existential depression, a quiet emptiness. Love, achievement, legacy begin to feel hollow. Why labour for a future that may be nothing more than a passing simulation cycle? Why grieve or celebrate when all may be ephemeral code, subject to deletion without notice? If reality is counterfeit, what becomes of morality? Ethics unravel entirely. If this world is not real, its laws and customs are mere artifices. The pain of others becomes weightless, dignity expendable. Some withdraw from responsibility, others descend into cruelty. If we are digital constructs, why hesitate? The simulation's illusory nature justifies transgression without guilt. Acts of violence or exploitation are excused. No true harm occurs in programmed illusions. Some retreat into solipsism, doubting the reality of others, reducing them to non-player characters, mere scenery. This erosion metastasizes quickly. When others are viewed as scripted automatons rather than sentient equals, moral obligations diminish. Their pain seems performative, existence decorative. Even isolated minds may spiral into violence, excusing atrocities by declaring others unreal. Even without violence, this thinking fosters disconnection. Suspicion replaces trust. Isolation replaces community. The world fractures into lonely solipsisms, each convinced of its unique reality. When the simulation hypothesis moves from private wondering to public belief, it becomes a potent tool for those who seek power. If reality is artificial, those claiming access to the programming gain authority. Governments, cults, corporations may exploit the narrative to justify policies, suppress dissent, pacify populations. The promise of reality hacks or secret knowledge offers soft control. Why resist injustice if this world is merely temporary illusion? Why demand change if suffering is part of the simulation's necessary function? Leaders declare themselves interpreters of the simulation's will. Citizens seduced or terrified surrender their agency. The hypothesis becomes not a door to liberation, but a mechanism of compliance. At the farthest edge lie the cults. As the narrative spreads, some gather around figures who claim secret communion with the simulators, or special access to underlying code. New religions are born, not of gods but of programmers. Promises emerge, salvation through escape, rituals triggering awakening, death leading to ascension into higher reality. Some sects descend into control, demanding devotion, sacrifice or violence. Paranoia festers, schisms form. Competing prophets accuse one another of being false agents of the simulation. The boundary between spiritual seeking and destructive fanaticism collapses. In seeking truth, we may instead find deeper prisons. Behind every idea that takes hold in the human psyche, there are those who gather beneath its banner, not merely to contemplate, but to capitalize. The simulation hypothesis is no exception. For futurists and technologists, it offers both vision and commodity. Venture capital flows into companies promising to blur the lines between base reality and simulation. Virtual reality platforms, neural interfaces, brain-computer symbiosis. The prospect of living within a simulation suggests future realities that can be engineered, curated, and sold. perception itself becomes the ultimate product. Silicon Valley titans speak of uploading consciousness, of digital transcendence. If this world is a simulation, they argue, we might one day construct our own perfected simulations. Worlds free from suffering, death, and biological limitations. Behind the rhetoric of liberation lies a vast commercial horizon. For governments and power structures, the simulation narrative offers quieter utility, pacification. If reality is suspect, grievances within it weaken. Economic collapse, ecological disaster, social injustice, all lose urgency when filtered through the ontological uncertainty. The destabilized mind is easier to shepherd, the simulated citizen easier to pacify. Spiritual entrepreneurs and neo-religious movements gather the disoriented. They offer methods to awaken from the simulation, contact higher operators, ascend beyond the programmed veil. Ancient anxieties are dressed in digital mysticism. Every era births its prophets. This one births simulation shamans. Media and entertainment industries thrive on the public's hunger for these narratives. Films, television, novels, stories of simulated worlds multiply. Each reinforcing the meme, each inviting us to question our own reality. Even among skeptics and philosophers, the simulation idea draws audiences. Lectures, debates, best-selling books feed a growing appetite, not for answers but for the thrill of uncertainty. The argument has become its own genre of spectacle. The result is a strange convergence. Technologists, politicians, mystics, artists, and philosophers, each feeding different branches of the same tree. Whether or not we live in a simulation, the idea itself has become a system of power, a marketplace of attention, and an engine of profit. In the end, it is not the question of truth that haunts us most. It is what the question does to us. The simulation hypothesis is not merely a speculation about the fabric of the cosmos. It applies pressure to our most fragile certainties, our ethics, our agency, our sense of meaning. Whether or not it is true, the very act of entertaining the idea disturbs the soil where purpose grows. In one direction lies paralysis, the temptation to abandon struggle, dismiss suffering, and drift into moral indifference. In another lies control, where leaders exploit uncertainty to shape belief and behaviour. And in yet another lies despair, where fragile minds collapse under the weight of insignificance. The quiet horror is not that we might be simulated. The horror is that this idea, once planted, unfolds into 1,000 small surrenders. Quiet recalibrations of how we treat one another, how we see ourselves, how we carry the burden of existence. Even those who dismiss the argument feel its shadow lingering at the edges of thought, a gnawing possibility, a phantom uncertainty. The door remains ajar. Perhaps that is its most dangerous property. Not its conclusion, but its persistence. A recursive haunting that resists closure. The simulation hypothesis does not need to be true to unsettle us, it only needs to be possible. You've been listening to Noir Frequency. To help keep these stories alive, there are a few small things you can do. Like the episode, share it with someone who might need it, subscribe on YouTube, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever it is that you're listening. These small gestures ripple out, helping more people find the show. In a sea of content, your support is the signal that cuts through the noise. If you'd like to go deeper, you can join us at patreon.com/Noir Frequency. Patrons get early access, bonus content, and an ad-free feed, because some signals are meant to come through clear. For those who want to carry the story out into the world, visit noirfrequency.com. In the merch store there is a collection of t-shirts I've designed. Simple, evocative, and meant to keep the signal close. Wear one if it speaks to you. Whether you're here for the folklore, the questions, or the quiet company of strange stories, this space is for you. Thanks for being here.